Intelligence Committee. She joins us right now. Congresswoman, good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Well, good morning, Maria. Thank you so much.
An increasing number of incidents now, at-home incidents, homegrown terrorism. Are we fighting a new war on terror?
Well, I think that it's always been a challenge for our intelligence capabilities to keep up with lone wolf attacks. But more frightening is this global Islamic jihadist network that we have, the extreme elements trying to target us. We'll never be able to get rid of the lone attacks like this gentleman, who's obviously has some issues. We hope that he gets the proper punishment. But it's the global network that is more worrisome, Maria. I don't think that we need to worry about or ever be able to stamp out folks who are acting on their own. But if they're part of the network, that's what's really frightening.
Does that global network originate in Syria, originate in Yemen? And what can we do to begin to break open that global network?
Well, the first way to tackle a problem is to admit that there's a problem. This is a radical Islam. It is a global network. It could be in Yemen. It could be in Nigeria. They could pop up at anywhere. But what they want to do is target the West because of our values, because of what we represent. And they all have in common this hatred for America and hatred for the West. And anyone who is not pure is an infidel. And then they determine that person is ripe for death. And we see that spawning all across Europe. We've seen that the attacks here in our homeland. And so we've got to work with all of our partners to make sure that they recognize the problem for what it is. If you don't recognize it and you don't want to say radical Islam or jihadist network, you're never going to get rid of the problem.
Yeah, I wonder why the president has had a tough time with that. I want to talk about that as well as come back to what's being done right now and look at the president's State of the Union. So stay with us, Congresswoman. A lot more to talk about with you. But first, the latest on this battle against radical Islamic terrorism. Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn with that angle. Eric, good morning to you.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. Shootouts, dragnets, arrests of dozens of radical Islamic terrorist suspects in Western Europe. Authorities there are aggressive, while here there has been one arrest since the Paris massacre. But from France to Greece and even Israel, law enforcement is now on a terror sweep. They are targeting radical Islamic suspects and suspected terror cells before they can strike. In Belgium, last week's raid, 2 jihadists and uncovered a cell stocked with police uniforms, ready, said authorities, to kill officers. The one arrest in our country has been this man. He's from Ohio. His father describes him as a mama's boy who never left their house. He is 20-year-old Christopher Lee Cornell, and is accused of plotting to bomb the Capitol and shoot fleeing lawmakers. He was nabbed in an FBI sting. But so far, there apparently has been no European-style raid on a terror cell, like the terror cell that in New York carried out the first attack on the World Trade Center, the bombing back in 1993. Investors Business Daily this week is blunt, saying, quote, with Belgium, German, and French police all busting up Islamic State terror cells, some in deadly shootouts, attention is turning to the U.S. At least a dozen sleeper terrorists are secreted here, yet the FBI still hasn't kicked down any doors. Apparently the Bureau is still tracking them, as the FBI director says, which is not comforting given the FBI's long track record for losing the terrorists it monitors. The FBI and the Attorney General need to wake up to the threat that's staring them in the face. It's time to launch counterterrorism sweeps in this country as well. Others say the only way to stop radical Islamic terrorism is to address the root causes that draw alienated, disaffected, and hateful young men to jihad.
It's really since the late 70s that Islamic extremism has really become the major terrorist threat worldwide. And sort of why you answer and how you answer the question of why that happened says a lot about how you funnel resources into strategies for solving it.
Now, French President Hollande says France is waging a war against terrorism. Our president hasn't exactly put it in those words, but then again, Mr. Obama told us last year that the war on terror is over. Maria?
All right, Eric, thanks very much. Eric Shawn with the latest there. More now with House Intel Committee member Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. And Congressman, let me ask you about that. Is there anything we should be doing now in terms of targeting the global network and getting at these homegrown incidents?
Well, we've got to make sure that we work with our allies, and we have to make sure that we address the problem. You just can't do it by saying that it's workplace violence, as the president labeled the Fort Hood attack. That was an act of terror. To say that that was a workplace violence attack, it's unbelievable. And then look at all the problems that we've had with stating the obvious. This is Captain Obvious that he misses out. And I'm so anxious to hear the president on Tuesday night when he lays out his agenda. I know that he's going to key in on economic issues, domestic issues, his tax plan, etc. But I want to hear about what he's going to do to tackle these radical global jihadists, because our safety and our security, that's the #1 priority for our commander-in-chief. And I don't think that he understands the difference between an ally and an enemy. And he's not willing to say that we're at war with this jihadist element. And he's a gentleman who said that we've had Al-Qaeda on the run, and he said, "Oh, ISIS? Well, that's a JV team. Come on, let's wake up and see what's going on all around the world, and know that our homeland is next."
Well, that's a good point. Let's move on to the State of the Union. What would you like to see? What would Congress like to see in terms of priorities as it relates to foreign policy? For example, are you going to encourage boots on the ground in places like Iraq right now? And then in terms of economic policy, the word is that the president is going to raise taxes or propose raising taxes on the highest earners, eliminate the inheritance tax break. What would you like to see there as well? Start with foreign policy, and let's talk economic as well.
Well, the first part about boots on the ground, we should never tell our enemies, this is what we're not willing to do. Let's say what we are doing and say that all options are on the table. The problem with this president is that he has very little credibility. He said in Syria, if they use chemical weapons, that's a red line. We will not allow it. Syria, Assad used chemical weapons not once but twice. What did we do? We still don't have a real strategy in wiping out ISIS in Syria and in Iraq. So we've got 1 foot forward and 2 steps back. So I'm very worried about our national security. On the economic, domestic front, this is a president who wants to keep on waging the war on the folks who are creating the jobs. He claims that he's for middle class and he's for working families, but if you tax and overregulate the folks who are producing the jobs or want to produce the jobs, you will never move America's working families forward. So let's stop this war on folks who are creating jobs, and let's try to lift all boats. I don't think he's interested in doing that.
In terms of your own heritage, any thoughts real quickly on the president's stance toward Cuba and the U.S.? Has that moved the needle in terms of activity between the two?
Well, he is a very weak deal maker. What we've done with Raul Castro is given away the store. And what have we gotten in return? 53 dissidents who were released. And by the way, of those fake 53, one of them was released over a year ago. 5 of them were rearrested just last week after the deal was cooked. So this president doesn't know how to make a good deal. And with a tyrant like Raul Castro, there is no good deal possible. So he gave away the store, just like he's dangerously doing that in Iran with a nuclear deal that's very weak also. It is just amazing what a weak leader he is and how little credibility he has internationally.
Congresswoman, thanks.